This is Tony Chimmel, and I'd like to introduce the hosts of the Game Marks podcast, George Feast and Johnny Clash.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast, where each and every week we take a deep dive into the good, the bad, and the awesome of all things wrestling video games. My name is George Feast.
And I'm the man they call Johnny Clash, and today we are playing, actually we changed the game, we are playing WWE 2K23. We'll look at a rating of Play It Forever or Future Endeavor, also our first thoughts on WWE 2K24.
And as always, make sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating and a review for this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you choose to listen to your podcast. And make sure to follow along on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod. And don't forget, you can get episodes early and ad-free, access to show notes, the live recordings, and a whole lot more when you join our Patreon at patreon.com/GameMarksPod. Johnny Clash, how are we doing, my friend?
What is up? So I have to be the one to say that I screwed up last week. The game that I said we were playing, Final Fire Pro Wrestling Venom for the Game Boy Advance, we actually already played, but we had it tucked away under the American name, which is simply just Fire Pro Wrestling 2. So I said, George, we had this idea that next week we were going to play 2K23. Why don't we just do it this week? And here we go.
Here we are.
Which both fresh. It couldn't be more fresh in our minds other than when it came out. I mean, right now, when 24 came out, we decided to grind 23, finish everything, and get set for the new one. So it is fresh. But before that, let's get into last week's game, WWE Mayhem. We both deleted it off of our phones. Do you regret your choice, or are you sticking with it?
I feel like if the game didn't have such a harsh paywall or pay to win structure at a certain point, we talked about it. If the game didn't have essentially just like a hard cutoff where it was impossible to advance unless you paid, I feel like the outcome of the game and our reviews of the game would have been differently.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Maybe if I was able to scan a damn retro figure on the spot, it would have been cooler. But I couldn't, so therefore, big ol' Future Endeavor, double future right there. But let's talk about what's hot right now. Let's talk about 2K24. Came out last week. Me and you, I think last week's episode, we only got a day or so with it, so we wanted to wait to kind of give our first thoughts till this episode. And I put some time in. You put some time in. How are you feeling?
I gotta say, having recently, both of us played through 2K23, played through 2K23 again today, and then to go from that right into 24, I think the thing that jumps out at me the most, and it was not the thing that I was expecting to, is the environment feels more realistic. Like the lighting feels different.
Dude,
like the arenas feel
when
different.
You do moves.
Yeah, like just
so cool.
They set up everything in a way where either I just wasn't paying enough attention in 23, but there's just something that feels, we're going to talk about in a little bit how it hit different and how things hit different. But this one actually felt different. Like it was, I can't quite put my finger on it. It just felt more real.
Well, so back in the day, I remember beating Spider-Man 2, the movie game, from Blockbuster, returning it that day, and renting Spider-Man 3. And the second I put it in the PlayStation, I was like, this is the same exact game. I don't actually want to play this anymore after I just spent a whole week grinding Spider-Man 2. So after, 3 weeks of grinding 23, pop it in 24, I was like, oh, the same old menu, same old AJ Styles entrance. But then it started and I was like, oh no, this actually does, it feels the same, but it feels different. Like they did make those small tweaks and upgrades to make the game that much better. Even those camera flashes. But then I did a casket match. And just like the movements, the reversals, like if you go watch the big gameplay we just put up for this game, we planned on doing multiple matches. We only did one match because it lasted 50 minutes. 50.
I haven't decided if I'm cutting it up at all or not.
Leave it. Just leave it all. It was great. There were glitches. There were things here and there that didn't hit. I hit you with the spear from Edge where it would just kind of graze you and you would stand there stunned. It wouldn't take the full move. A lot of that is not there anymore. Everything felt smoother. The transitions felt smoother. Even going from like running the ropes to hitting a move, you're not jumping over the person or through the person. I think it's just those small tweaks that made it that much better.
I thoroughly enjoy this game. I think so far my only complaint is the showcase, really. And I love the showcase as it is in terms of how it's set up. You're playing multiple wrestlers over the course of multiple years at multiple WrestleManias. That's awesome. Big fan of that. There are so many cuts mid-match into the real footage that sometimes the only thing that happens is a single objective. So it'll be like cutscene, back into the match, one objective, and sometimes the objective is like Irish whip your opponent into the corner, and you do that, and you're back into a cutscene.
Between that and like the blurred faces and
the blurred faces,
the crowd, the WWF
I get makes sense, but
the WWF logo, like it just. At what point do you just go back to the way it used to be and just make it all mocap?
I thought the mocap was fun. Like it kept you in the mindset of the game, but you still had the voice, like the real it's voice acting without voice acting.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't dove into that yet. I know I said I wanted to put it on our YouTube and you were like, maybe don't do that because you're going to get copyright strike for everything.
Yeah.
But I could cut it up. It's just not the same without those clips.
Especially because it happens a lot. And I will say, as opposed to previous years, the transitions feel less, it's less jarring, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I could agree on that. I have to still go in through a lot of the other modes, like My Rise and all that. After doing such a big My Rise, which we're going to get into when we talk about 23, I just couldn't jump right into another one.
But I will say this. I have not been this excited to dive into a 2K game. Like I thoroughly enjoyed 23. I think I'm more excited for 23 or for 24 than I was for 23. I can't quite put my finger on why. I think it's just because of what you just spoke about or what you just alluded to and what we're going to talk about in a little bit. One of the My Rise storylines was so good and the voice acting was so good that playing it so close to the release of the new game, it made me so much more excited for the new game.
I agree. But, we're talking about 23 today as the main episode. I think it's okay if we go into that, but also sprinkle in our 24 thoughts along with it. So what do you say we jump on into that?
All right, let's do it. Let's do the deep dive. Guys, if you want your beard to be soft and smell great, then you need Mad Cat Beard Care. Their products are all natural and made to order with vitamins and natural oils to moisturize your skin and to help make your beard healthy and strong.
Our exclusive scent, Play It Forever, is a blood orange, black clove, and vanilla scented beard balm or beard oil that can make your beard have a rich but not overpowering scent. Plus, a portion from their sales go towards finding care for stray cats, covering their medical bills and finding them safe places and forever homes.
Use code GameMarks to save yourself 15% when you place an order over at madcatbeardcare.com. That's 15% off with code GameMarks. And remember, the Mad Cat makes a happy beard. All right, the deep dive is brought to you by Mad Cat Beard Care. Use code GameMarks to save 15% off on your order at madcatbeardcare.com. Get yourself our signature scent, Play It Forever, with notes of blood orange, vanilla, and black clove. Have your beard feeling soft, looking healthy, and smelling great. Only at madcatbeardcare.com. All right. WWE 2K23 released March 17th, 2003 and 2000. Did I say 2003?
Yeah.
Wow. What
this
is
actually Day of Reckoning 2K23?
what just where did I just go? Oh man.
Back to 2003.
Released March 17th, 2023 and early access was March 14th, 2023. It was released for the PC, PlayStation 5, the Xbox S and X, PlayStation 4, and the Xbox One. Developed by Visual Concepts, published by 2K Sports, and other games in the wrestling universe in 2023. AEW Fight Forever.
That's right. Now, this is 1 year after 2K22, which hit different. And that was kind of the start of 2K games being good again. 2K20 we know was a flop. 19 we both liked. But this game had featured, better gameplay, smoother gameplay.
Yeah.
I think 22 kind of set the tone for what was coming up. And this game just delivered. 24 delivered even more. And I said it in our Discord the other day. There's really no way, unless they lose an engine or a license again like they did in 2K20, that if next year's game could be bad. Like, what could you possibly do to screw this up?
They'd have to do a drastic overhaul.
They're going to pull an NHL 24?
Or maybe they introduce new controls or something.
Yeah, if they're smart, they just don't touch a thing.
No, the baseline, the base game is great. Just keep adding. Don't subtract, don't change, just add.
That's right. Now let's go through the game modes you have here, because most of the 2K games are the same. We mentioned in the Elimination Chamber episode, once you kind of hit those, you go all the way up through everything. You're going to get the same matches and everything. But new this year was War Games. Now, I haven't done that in 24 yet. Is it? I'm assuming it's in there still.
Haven't tried, haven't even checked.
I think they're a bit clunky in 23. They take way too long. The pins are broken up very easily.
Yeah.
There's always the one that has to come in with the weapons and that kind of... I mean, that's fun. But I don't know. You have to be prepared to have like a 15, 20-minute match rather than just sit down and play.
You say that, but we just had a 50-minute last man standing match.
Right, against each other. I'm not sitting there like, let me do a War Games match and it's going to take 50 minutes. No, you have to allot some time there.
I would imagine that over time, maybe in the next couple of years, they'll kind of streamline that match type. And
maybe
it'll be
in more arenas than the NXT and Survivor Series, which is the same arena.
Yeah, I think it just gets introduced. You have it in there to say that it's in there, and then you kind of keep building upon it. Think of how many changes the Hell in a Cell has gone through. Like, Hell in a Cell just used to sit on top of the ring like it was a cage match. Then it was like the entire outside of the arena. Then they found a happy middle ground.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, I guess. I would like to do one in 24 and see what we're working with, but it was pretty groundbreaking. First time it's been in a game other than using cheat codes, so
yeah,
pretty cool.
That's very true.
Or M. Dickey, I guess. We have to give him a shout out or he'll flip out on Twitter. Now, there's the 2K Showcase mode this year, which is John Cena. We're going to get into that in depth a little bit later. There's My GM and there's Universe, pretty much the same. Universe is your sandbox. You kind of take control over the WWE, your shows. You could change up the rosters. You could change up the shows. You could add TNA, ECW, whatever you want into the mix. My GM mode, kind of the same as 22 is just different general managers.
Yeah.
I'm not good at it, so I'm probably not going to play it this year.
I'm also not good at it. I tried it. I want to like it.
can't
I'm
win.
just so bad at it.
I put a decent amount of time into 23s when it first came out, and I think I'm good on that end. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll dabble. Who knows? There's my faction, which still confuses me to this day, but it's collect, manage, upgrade cards of WWE superstars and legends to build the ultimate 4-person faction. Now, again, like 22, there's some hidden wrestlers in my faction mode that you only can play as in my faction mode. And unless they're cracked and broken and put into Creative Suite, you're not playing as them in your game. And then
Which now, in this year,
right,
in my faction, there's they made it so that you can play as the hidden characters, but now they have this new thing where there's personas in my faction, where by playing through my faction, you can actually unlock extra costumes, like versions of certain characters, certain wrestlers. So like, that's how you get, like the pre-order bonus was Dusty and, Undashing Cody Rhodes. Like when you load into my faction, the first thing that happens when you open that pack is that it says these wrestlers and these versions of these wrestlers aren't limited to just my faction. Anything that has the persona tag is a version of a wrestler that is available outside of my faction.
Oh, well, that's cool. Glad they at least did something there. Now, Soups in the chat is saying, I like the tag matches this year. Once your opponent comes in to break up the pin, it sets a timer so that they can't interfere again during. I like that.
I didn't try a tag match yet, but that's cool to know. I got to try that.
After playing through My Rise last year, where you're the women's tag team champion for majority of it, I didn't want to see another tag match for a while. But My Rise, let's start with the lock, the men's one. I said when I finished it the first time, kind of reminded me of Cody's journey a little bit. You start as the next up-and-coming thing. They give you a bad gimmick, which is the lock. You come out of a safe wearing like a John Cena lock. But then you go...
I got Battlegrounds. I got big Battlegrounds vibes from coming out of the safe.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a Battlegrounds entrance.
Pretty much. You're debuting as the next big thing. It doesn't really go as planned. And then they kind of ship you off. You go to England. You go to Japan.
Chosen.
It's Chosen. I was going to say, what's that guy's name? That's really annoying. Chosen, yeah. But in the end of the day, I think you steal the NXT UK trophy and stuff in there. Right?
The Heritage Cup? Is that
the Heritage Cup?
Yeah.
You steal that. You make a name for yourself. Get back in. It's an okay story. But then I think the Legacy one, which is the women's one,
that's where it shines.
Double the amount of gameplay time. The story is actually like in depth. It follows, they call her LJ, Little Justine, where Justine is like your Hall of Fame aunt. So it starts off right away in a 2002 Raw match, I think with her and Molly Holly or her and Lita, something like that.
Trish, yeah, it's someone.
You're in the old arena, it's her watching, and then you make your character, which I made the same character in 24 because I didn't know who else to make. I even named her LJ. So, but pretty much you're in her footsteps. You make a name for yourself. You don't really do the same stuff the Lock does, which I like. And then, go on, WrestleMania. You fight your aunt in the main event for the women's title. I'm not saying spoiler alert, it's over a year. If you didn't play it, you're probably never gonna.
It's just everything about the yes, everything about the journey and the story is great. But I don't even think that that's the best part of it. Do we want to talk about what we both said unprompted to each other about what our favorite part of this My Rise mode was?
Are you talking about the last promo?
Yeah. I'm actually talking about that. So this has always been my problem with the My Rise mode. Dialogue can be great, but if you don't know the setting exactly of which, like what you're reading and what's happening, or it changes from when it was originally read to what ended up being in the finished story, it can change a lot. But Ruthless Digressions, the podcast promo, is so amazing.
It's phenomenal, and I think a lot of wrestlers should take notes. But here's what I think. Could it have something to do with a wrestler didn't do it? The past few years, we've had wrestlers be the voice actors. I'm not sure about 22. But this year it was actors. So maybe they could read a script a little bit differently, that it's not the whole, I am a wrestler, ha ha ha. That they put more like passion into it, and it's just a really good promo.
It's very possible.
But that whole last part of the storyline, which we were texting each other, we're like, this thing never ends. Like, it just keeps going. I kept texting you because you finished first, like, how much longer? How much longer? But the whole last section, you're just staring at the screen the whole time. You're in it. And I think that's what a wrestling game needs. And I hope 24 has it. I know people have finished it. I didn't finish it yet. I'm not going to look up spoilers. Hopefully I'm going to dive into that soon. But I think if you're looking at a perfect one, the legacy here, that's it.
Yeah, I think the legacy voice, the voice acting was unbelievable. Caroline Kinley is the voice of LJ.
I could not stand it at first. I thought it was the most annoying voice I've ever heard. But then as you go, you get used to it, and then the promos happen. You're like, oh, okay, I'm in.
Everything about the writing for that is amazing. The voice acting for that is amazing. I think we both agreed that Justine might be the weaker part of that storyline. I think who's the tag partner? Ava Moreno. That storyline was very interesting and kind of like a normal tag story, but there was just something about the Justine storyline that I don't know if it was the constant flashbacks to like helping her move furniture and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
they definitely dragged it in the middle a little bit.
There were just certain parts where I was just like, why is this here? Like, there's too many cuts of a podcast that isn't relevant to the story. Where like that
became relevant.
Oh yeah, but man, that's a lot of breadcrumbs to get to that that Mania match.
I was okay with it. But let's talk about the creation suite now, because let's get this out of the way first. Finally, you can create a wrestler and then bring them into My Rise mode.
Fantastic.
You have your superstar creation, your entrance and victory, moveset, championship, Money in the Bank briefcase, arena. You could create your own show. You could do custom matches, custom image upload, or a video. I always do the videos. And you know what? They take forever to export.
I never do the videos because you have told me multiple times that they take forever.
Yeah, you make a created wrestler, and then you're going to have like AJ Styles' entrance video. It's dumb. There's some generic like WWE logos, but
that's usually what I do. It's
easy to just either upload your image or just take like your initials and make them like spin behind like flames or something. I don't know. You have your online play, which I have never done in a 2K game because I'm not that toxic, where you have your lobbies, tonight's match, leaderboard, quick play, or your community creations.
Which the community creations for this game and for 24. So good. So good.
Yeah, that's where I'm spending all my time. Just downloading. You don't know where to like end. You're just downloading everyone. Let's get into the showcase mode, though.
Oh, man.
After this break. All right. Let's run through the showcase mode here. I thought it was pretty strong. I really did enjoy it, other than those cutscenes we were talking about, how they could be just very like intrusive. I think the Rey Mysterio ones were a little bit worse.
I just think any showcase where and I think that this was my problem with showcase mode for a long time, is that it gets very repetitive to play the same person all the time in every match. This was very refreshing.
Yeah, gives you a chance to be whoever. Now, I want to put out a disclaimer here as well. We're going to mention some names. We're going to have to mention these names. We don't support these names, but we have to say them because they're in the game. So I digress. Your first match here, John Cena versus Kurt Angle. I thought it was so cool that you have the prototype John Cena, where you have his debut match gear. Where
do you remember watching that?
100%. Like I could still probably do half the match like in the ring if you asked me.
I just like that is such a standout moment. Like I was thinking about this. So like very early on in the podcast, I want to say it was in like the first couple of weeks or the first couple of months of the podcast where someone asked like what our Rushmore was. And I was thinking like that spiraled into what are like iconic moments of wrestling that stick with you decades after they happen. And obviously there's huge ones, but like this was one of the ones that I thought of. And I was just like, you know, we've all seen it a million times because they played it so much, but you know, Cena with the mic screaming ruthless aggression in Kurt Angle's face and like slapping him like on repeat.
We've
like,
said it before. John Cena on SmackDown, Randy Orton on Raw, kind of having the same comeuppance from OVW where you're like, these guys are good. Like the future's in a good spot. Then you have John Cena versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. Then John Cena versus The Undertaker from Vengeance 2003. John Cena versus Edge, the Money in the Bank cash-in from New Year's Revolution.
What a great feud that was.
Great feud, great moment. Glad it's in here. This one was my favorite of all of them. John Cena versus RVD for the WWE Championship at ECW One Night Stand 2006. It gave us Hammerstein Ballroom in the game, and that's all I could ask for.
That's perfect.
So many ROH arenas were in Community Creations after that. You have another Edge match here from SummerSlam 06. Then you have Night of Champions 08 against Triple H. SummerSlam 08 against Batista. Hell in a Cell against Orton. The once-in-a-lifetime match that happened once again against The Rock. That was the first one. 28 was Miami, and then 29 was New York. John Cena versus Brock from SummerSlam 2014. John Cena versus AJ Styles, which was a great feud. I mean, if you're gonna, AJ Styles wasn't in WWE very long. Remember that's a moment I remember too. The run off the ropes, the forearm.
I remember having to explain. So, like for a long time, I believe we've talked about this, where I had a group of friends that didn't always watch wrestling, but they all agreed that they always wanted to watch WrestleMania. So I had to explain to them why Cena Styles was such a big deal.
Yeah. Now, Cena versus Undertaker from WrestleMania 34. Was that the one where Cena was in the crowd with the
ticket? Crowd, I think, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was a complete squash.
And then someone walks over and they go, "He's here," and he just runs up the ramp.
Are you scared? He's here.
Pretty much.
Then you have Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship at SummerSlam 2001, and then your bonus matches. You get to take your pick against John Cena, and then the cutscenes in between. John Cena actually leaves. He does the send-off, and then he goes, "Wait, there's one more." And he puts him back on, and he runs to the ring, and that's when you do that. And then you get to wrestle Super Cena, which is pretty cool. You also get to take your pick in that one.
Well, you can't see him.
This one, I remember, it took me like 2 or 3 tries. John Cena versus...
this was a tough one.
John Cena versus Steve Austin versus Hulk Hogan versus Bruno Sammartino. Speaking of Mount Rushmores.
Yeah, that's a stacked match, and 2, yes, I very much remember that match being a little bit more challenging than I had hoped.
Yeah, just took a long time. Now, your gameplay within 2K23, what has been upgraded here from 22? Stamina was kind of reduced in 22, but now it returns in 23. Now you have more tired animations. Your facial, you're like, you're tired. More effects on your behavior. Maybe you can't run or springboard. Again, check out our playthrough on YouTube. You will see by the end of our last man standing match, neither of us can barely walk. There's a new timed pin minigame, which, thank God, I can now just tap, 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 tap. I don't have to do any of the meters or anything. Glad it gives you the option. The meter is upgraded. It is a little bit easier to do, but to have just 3 chances to do it, it's just not for me. I'm sorry.
You talked on the about the different animations and the stamina and stuff, and I feel like that combined with the pinning and the other like little tweaks that they did in animations, this is what made the game feel less like a I feel like we said it one time on another game. Maybe it was for 22, where just the game becomes like a reverse fest, where it's just like I reverse, you reverse, I reverse, you reverse, and a match can 100% start that way. But there's
22 is bad with that.
There's a certain point where you're too fatigued and you're the emphasis on that stamina that John mentioned before, like that plays a larger part into the match because, you know, one, that stamina bar runs out. Two, I feel like the collision detection either worked beautifully in the sense of it gave you the prompts to reverse, or like John said before, you're getting like standing spears that just stun the person but don't knock them down.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
There's no middle ground.
I'm used to it now. I'm still not sure how I feel about Y or triangle being reverse. When
you want to bring back L&R?
When it's trigger for so long, but now I'm used to it. Now you can't change it. Now, for me, you can't change it. I don't know.
Bring back bumpers for reversals?
I don't know. They did add a new finisher situation, which is in springboard moves. So now you could do the Cody Cutter. There are new taunts while holding a weapon. And now this year you get to throw the weapon. Like
that
you
was
said
a big
last
deal.
week, you could throw the Slim Jim at me. And female referees have been added to the game. And now, only a year later, you actually get real refs.
Absolutely.
Now, we're also not going to read the damn roster because there are 246 wrestlers involved. 60 of those are new, which is pretty crazy.
That's awesome.
I guess because NXT 2.0 and all that. And, you know,
a lot of new faces.
Whole new crop came in. Now, arenas, you get your classic TV arenas. You get your classic pay-per-view arenas, but you also get the current of both. And you get the ones that are in Showcase and MyRise, like the Japan arenas. I think there's 2 of them. The Mexico, London, the Performance Center, the Mocap Studio. Where while you're doing Mocap for the game, attacking New Day, I think it is, the announcer is...
New Day or The Miz?
It was New Day. They were doing their cover shoot.
Oh, it was that. For some reason... Oh, no, they talk about The Miz, I think?
Maybe, but the announcer's like shitting on 2K in the background, 2K20. Which is really funny. I'm glad they acknowledge how bad it was.
So good. And if you're going to do it, that's the spot to acknowledge the game.
Yeah. Now, the artwork here. 3 different versions of John Cena. Your base gameplay, you got the You Can't See Me face. The deluxe edition is all gold, where you got John Cena sporting that old US title, which is so much better than the spinner one. Then you got the Icon Edition, which is a nice Rob Schamberger style painted version of John Cena holding the spinner belt. But then there's also the Bad Bunny Edition, where he's got a kendo stick and he's on the cover of that one. I feel like now we're in 2023. Covers don't mean as much as they used to because we're digital. But
see, this is the thing. I like the covers now because the covers feel more like posters. Like you could. If you bought
they're beautiful.
A poster version of the Icon Edition, like that's a beautiful poster. Like WWE sells posters of like this style of art. Like it's so nice to see how far we've come from, you know, how it was in the late 90s and stuff.
Well, speaking of how far we've come, the back cover, it is half informational text.
Yeah.
The top half is 3 screenshots. A picture of Bianca Belair that's not even an in-game photo. It's like, think of how nice it was to see Rey Mysterio on the back of Here Comes the Pain in that gold. This is just a picture. And then it's just got a couple of text blurbs with what's new, but I don't know. Pretty lackluster if you ask me. For such strong, I guess, covers, the back cover is pretty weak.
Yeah, there's so, like you said, there's so much compatibility jargon and like all the warnings, and there's 2 barcodes on the one that we're looking at. There's like how many, what is that, the block usage on your memory card? Like why do we still have that?
Yeah, we don't need that at all. I didn't even realize that was still there. Wow.
I guess it makes sense because I mean, we were just talking. You and I were just talking to Swoggle the other day about how he had to buy the expansion hard drive for his Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you're someone who has these games and keeps them installed for long periods of time, that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess so. Now, your pre-order bonuses here. You have your standard edition cross-gen bundle will receive the Bad Bunny bonus pack. Yep. This is also included in the deluxe and the icon. But now the Bad Bunny pack, you get him as a playable character as well as a Ruby tier Bad Bunny My Faction card don't all come running at once. Now, your Ruthless Aggression pack, which comes with, I think, Deluxe and Icon, you get the OVW versions of Cena, Orton, Lesnar, and Batista, and the WrestleMania 22 arena.
Which I think the only person who didn't have... Oh, no. I was going to say Cena's Prototype and Batista's Leviathan then.
Yeah, and also during our playthrough, we didn't know who Eddie wrestled at 21. It was Rey Mysterio, which makes sense because, last match, and I don't want to get sad. Let's talk about the art style and the graphics here. If you play 22, you kind of know what it looks like.
I got no complaints. People, the wrestlers look like the wrestlers. The thing that always blows my mind, and this is something that blows my mind in the WWE games. This is something that blows my mind in in Smash Brothers when we play, like if I've ever played Smash Brothers, like the amount of detail that you can get on the textures of a fabric in games today it's mind blowing. Like someone comes out in a leather jacket. The leather jacket has like the most picture perfect, beautiful leather texture, but it goes across the board. And you can change the textures of what your created characters are wearing. And for me, when they do those close camera cuts on people's entrances and stuff, that is always the thing that I'm just like, how mind blowing is that? That like, yeah, the scans of the wrestlers look great. The lighting looks great. The environments look great. But Finn Balor's coming out with a leather jacket, and the leather jacket looks exactly like the leather jacket that he wears on television. It may not move and like flow as he swings around the same way that it does on television, but the texture of it is insane. And that's across the board for every character in the game.
Yeah. We're at the point, I think, where we can't really speak on the graphics because they're just like watching TV, honestly.
It's nuts. I think the biggest change was when they, like, do you remember when they did the new Raw stage?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the big light board, and the ramp had the light board in it, and like slowly but surely every part of like every aspect was a screen now. Like the turnbuckle posts are screens, and the where the apron is on the hard cam is a screen, and everything is a screen now. And I remember that jump. I was like, this isn't a game now. And this is mind blowing on television. To now see that recreated like pixel perfect in a video game is insane.
You know what? It's not even, you don't think that would be impressive because it's just a giant screen. But when you could see like the pixels and the LED bulbs in there,
yeah,
and it looks like TV, like that's it.
That's crazy.
We're at the point where even the crowd, I don't have notes on the crowd. That's saying something. It's a good crowd.
And
a good crowd.
In the creator and arena, you can customize the crowd.
You can?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever done it, to be honest.
You can customize the crowd where you can pick the style of shirts that they wear, and you can put logos on the chairs that they sit on.
Wow. I know you could customize signs now, right?
Yep.
24.
It's crazy. The amount of control that the creative suite in the 2K games has gone through over the past couple of years it's awesome. There are so many little nuances that you wouldn't expect. Are you well?
Did you know? Did you know WWE 2K23 was nominated for Sports Game of the Year at the DICE Awards?
Not participating. You can read all
Did
of them.
you know this is Cody Rhodes' first WWE game appearance since 2K15?
Did you know WWE 2K23 is the first title in the WWE 2K series
to assign different attires to a single slot?
All right, let's talk about these DLC packs because they're
terrible. There's not one I would buy.
So you get Steiner Row pack, which you get Ashante Adonis, BFAB, the Steiner brothers, and Top Dollar.
Who wants Top Dollar?
John is saying he's out on that one. You get the Pretty Sweet pack, which you get Elton Prince, Carl Anderson, Kit Wilson, Luke Gallows, and Tiffany Stratton.
That's probably the one I would consider most.
Okay. The Race to NXT pack, you get Harley Race, Ivy Nile, Tony D'Angelo, Trick
Not a
Williams,
hockey
and
player.
Wendy Chu. You're out on that one?
Yeah, no.
All right. The Revel with Wyatt pack. You get Blair Davenport, Bray Wyatt, Joe Gacy, Uncle Howdy, Valhalla, and Zeus.
All right. Okay, maybe that's the one I would get.
Okay.
Still
and then
not great.
finally, you have Bad News U pack. You get Andre Chase, Damon Kemp, Eve Torres, Nathan Fraser, and Wade Barrett.
Terrible. Oh, man. If you bought the season pass for this, go back and buy AEW Fight Forever because they got you. So in our Discord today, there was a conversation about Bray Wyatt in video games that kind of struck me because he has been in a lot of games. I remember playing one of those
Husky Harris,
and that was a SmackDown versus Raw.
Yep.
He was part of one of the storylines I remember. Bray Wyatt as the Fiend has barely ever appeared in a 2K game.
I think most of the time he's DLC.
Yeah, he's in Battlegrounds as the Fiend. That's 2K20. Like 20 is when that was really his first year doing that. He's in 2K20 as DLC, Bump in the Night. He's in 2K20 as just Bray Wyatt. And then he's also in 20 as that monster thing they had. I don't remember what it is.
The swamp
But
monster, yeah.
I don't think he's in 22 at all. I'm going to look it up.
Is that in between his release?
I don't know. No, Bray is just not here.
Because he was released for a period of time, right? I'm not making that up.
Yeah, I think that was maybe a bit later. Yeah, no, he's not on the roster page that I'm looking at for 22. 23. Now, I was thinking maybe, Orton went through that whole ordeal with the tattoo. I know his mask was made by the Slipknot people. I don't know if it was that.
It could be that. Could be that.
He's DLC in 23 as well, but not as the Fiend. But Uncle Howdy's also in the game. So very weird situation. And now this year you get 4 versions of Bray Wyatt.
Yes.
Was Burnt Fiend in one of these games?
I think it's an alternate costume in 23, actually.
We got
maybe 22.
I know people are yelling at their screens right now at us because we don't know this, but we got to go take a look at that because that's I don't know. It's just interesting. It doesn't really matter. It's just he's one of the top guys for so long, and then to not have him in the game, it's just a little bizarre.
There's got to be a
main version.
There's got to be a reason behind it for sure.
Yeah. But all right, I want you to sit back and relax. I interrupted you a lot tonight, and let's talk about some ratings and review some R&R. So we finally have a full list here. Metacritic, you have a 79 on the PC, PS5 an 82, and the Xbox an 81. Destructoid with a 7.5 out of 10. Digital Trends with a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Game Informer with an 8 out of 10. GameSpot with an 8 out of 10. Games Radar Plus with a 4 out of 5 stars. Hardcore Gamer 4.5 out of 5. IGN with an 8 out of 10. Enemy with 4 out of 5 stars. Push Square with an 8 out of 10. Shack News with an 8 out of 10. Touch Arcade with a 4 out of 5 stars. And VideoGamer.com with an 8 out of 10. That is just across the board. Incredible scores. Now, I want to look up 2K22 on IGN. I believe it was similar, if not close. I know, yeah, it also got an 8. So there, the trajectory of these games from the abysmal score of 22 is pretty crazy. Yep.
Was this the
23.
game where was 23 where the game where people were saying that 2K is back? Or was it 22?
Oh, it's got to be 22. 22 was great too.
Oh, but I feel like 22 people went in with a little bit of hesitancy of all right,
you
what do we
had
get?
to after what they put us through.
100%. But I don't know if the reviews were just hey, it's better than the last game that came out, but still go in with a little bit of hesitancy. And then when they did it a consecutive year they were just like, okay, the 2K game series is back.
Yeah, like I said, you can't really screw it up after this unless you do something drastic. But just don't pull an NHL, and you won't have to. So,
as long as you are. Oh, can I say in recent years what my favorite like creation suite feature is, or community creation feature is? The ability to update people's attire.
what do you mean?
You can download. So like the example is AJ Styles.
So you're not like locked into the download.
So like AJ Styles comes in his default, like, royal blue, like typical AJ Styles gear. You can go into the community creations and download the black, the black leather jacket, the black tights, or the black trunks. Like you could buy that. You could download that whole thing in the community creation and then set it as an alternate attire for AJ Styles. So the idea of, well, now people are put into the game and now their gear doesn't match and their gear's already outdated. All of these content creators that are making all of these updated costumes, like, yes, to have full wrestlers is great. But for me, I think that is such like a nice little detail, which is like, now I can have the same person that's on TV wearing the same exact gear that they wore at the pay-per-view or whatever. Or someone goes through they turn heel. Like, I would be willing to bet that there is a heel Rock create a wrestler costume out there now.
I don't know how Darby Allin's still alive. Sorry to interrupt.
Man's a risk taker. Man's climbing Mount Everest. Wrestling is nothing now. Like that. Wrestling is the safest thing that he will ever do.
Man just did the coffin drop onto the apron.
Oh.
Yeah. I digress.
But the idea that you can go and download Heel Rock with the $5,000 t-shirt from No Mercy and play that. Like, have that same version of The Rock that's not actually in the game, but you can download that costume and have it set as alternative attire is so cool.
I love it. I love that they just made this game just a mecca, just like a hub of anything you want in wrestling.
It's great.
There's something for everyone. There's GM, there's My Rise, there's Universe. Like, you just keep going. There's My Faction. Like, you have everything in this one game. If you complain about this game, you're lying. You're lying to yourself. You're trying to be cool. You're trying to be cool on the internet, and you're not. We can see right through you. You love this game. You're going to play it. If you have it, you're going to play it, and you're not going to think it's bad. That's just...
Even if you're just the creative person, there's a billion things. The create an arena, you could get lost in it for hours because there are so many small, minute little details that you can change. It's insane.
Yeah.
But with that, John, are you ready to get into this week's soft lock question?
I'm not, because first it's time to rate the game.
I messed up.
The game!
George Feast, I'm going to hit you first. 2K23, will you play it forever? Or future endeavor?
Let's just get this over. It's just 3, 2, 1 at John. 3, 2, 1.
Play it
forever. Like, it's great. For all of the reasons that John and I just mentioned, like, there is literally, John just said it perfectly. If you don't want to play the wrestling video game, you think that the way that the 2K series games have gone over the last couple of years is stale and boring and repetitive and not for you. Great. There's an expansive creative suite where you can make everything.
You can make the whole TNA roster from 2005 and make the show, and now you have a TNA game.
You can select the outdoor arena style and probably make some crazy version of Ultimate X if you wanted to.
You can select the outdoor arena and play in one of the pandemic shows I was in that had 50 people at it, sitting 6 feet apart from each other, if you so choose.
There you go. Put Johnny Clash in the crowd of your 2K game today.
Yeah, I mean, what we were saying earlier, like, even you were saying about the John Cena showcase, like, there's moments that you remember. Like, there's video game moments you remember. I'm sure it was a soft lock question at one point. I think the stories from this game and the My Rise are going to be ones that I remember.
Absolutely.
So for that,
absolutely.
You have to I don't know, just play it forever, and one day maybe go back and do it again.
That's what I'm probably going to do. I thought the showcase was great. I'll come back and I'll play the Cena showcase. I'll go back and play the Ray showcase. I think they're great.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
double play it forever, double piff, as John likes to say. But now that we have done that part, John, are you ready to get into the softball question?
Okay, fine.
All right. The soft lock is brought to you by W. Make sure to use code GameMarksPod at W.GG to save yourself 10% on your order. Get yourself jitterless energy in a great tasting drink. W.GG. Use code GameMarksPod. The soft lock is a segment where one of our mega marks from our Patreon gives us a question to answer, a topic to debate. It's a question of the week with a fancy name. And this week it comes from Tecker. And Tecker's question is, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, what do you consider to be your luckiest gaming moment? And I'll be honest, top of mind right now is how many times we went back and forth in that last man standing match. We got lucky a lot.
Oof. Everyone needs to watch that. That was insane. Even it's long. It's very long.
Watch it on 2 times the speed.
Yeah, you don't have to watch the whole thing, but it was pretty incredible.
If you don't want to watch the whole thing, just fast forward to like the last 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. Lucky gaming moments. I mean, I still remember getting my first solo dub in Fortnite, how crazy it was.
Yep.
But there was my one friend. He was just not very good at the game, and I don't think he'd listen, so I'm going to say that. And we used to run trios all the time, me, him, and our other friend. And when it came down to just him at the end, there was no reboots. Like, so if it was him versus a squad, it was him versus a squad.
Yeah.
So first, lucky shot, he takes out one. He takes out the other. Now it's 1-on-1. We're like, there's no way he's going to do this. And there's no zero build either. So we're watching this structure just go up and up and up. The guy, I don't know what he did. He jumped either up like with a launch pad or something. And as he jumped up, you just see my friend's screen. He's going up, up. He pulls the trigger at the right moment. And everything just goes flying all over the place. And victory royale. And we lost our mind because he sucked. So it wasn't really me, but I'll never forget that one.
It's I'm trying to think of what my luckiest gaming moment is.
I think anytime you win a battle royale, it's mostly luck.
Yeah, there's
Especially
definitely
us.
a factor in that. I mean, I have a accidental solo squads win in Fortnite. Like, I thought I was queuing for a squad, but I had Phil turned off, and I was just like, whatever, I'll play it and I'll do some challenges. And I ended up being where it was like me versus 4, and this was again way early on in the life cycle of Fortnite. There was no reboots, there was no bots on servers, and somehow I managed to get a squad or solo squad win, which was, it will never happen again.
No, I did a solo trio the other day accidentally. I made it to the top 5. So
hey,
actually, I think it was like top 2. I remember hiding in a bush for a long time. That was it.
Did you ever play? You played Skate, right?
Yeah. First one.
I feel like that's a series of luck in when you like, I'm going to go off the mega ramp and try to do some crazy things. And like you end up flipping and spinning and then somehow getting the board under you at like the last possible second, or you hit the ramp at an angle that you were not at all supposed to hit the angle and land it somehow. And you're like, all right, well, that was like 17,000 points that I just got.
We're hitting that 900 for the first time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think Skate is is probably the game that I have the most luckiest moments in, because that's a game where you just jump off the highest thing and try the stupidest trick, and sometimes you land them.
Yeah. Oh, it's still on my Xbox. Might go play.
Go play it.
But
all
okay.
right.
You do the honors here.
All right. Well, let us know your luckiest gaming moments on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. But John, would you like me to tell you what we're doing next week?
Sure would.
All right. Well,
Not
next
the hockey
week,
stick.
Next week we're going to have a visitor on the podcast. We're going to have our old friend, Mr. Dylan Postel, on the podcast.
Oh boy.
A lot of people know him as Swoggle. But we're going to be doing a video game history, not of Swoggle because he's only in like 2 games. But we're going to be doing the video game history of the Ultimate Warrior with a very special guest, one Hornswoggle.
All right. I know we've been talking about this for a while. He spilled the beans on this one, but that's going to be a lot of fun. We haven't done a history of in a while. And yeah, we're going to make it pretty. I'm going to do it up like I always do.
Hell yes. All right. Well, that's next week. I'm going to be very excited about that one. Been a while since we have Swoggle on the podcast.
Yeah.
The little podcast trio is getting back together. This is, what does he call it? Game Marks Postal? Is that what it is?
Game Marks Postal. Yeah. Just flows.
Yeah, going game marks. There's something. There's a method there. Guys, youtube.com/Game Marks Podcast for our playthrough videos and a whole lot more. GameMarksPod.com/shop for our exclusive merchandise. ProWrestlingTees.com/Game Marks Pod for our shirts. Patreon.com/Game Marks Pod for this show. Early ad-free access to show notes. You can be a part of the live recordings. You could be in the chat with John and I and everyone else right now. At Game Marks Pod on all forms of social media. And please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Can you ring that notification bell and not throw a figure this week?
Yes.
Great. And leave a 5-star rating and a review for this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you choose to listen. And if you have a product or service you would like to advertise on this podcast, you can reach out to us at GameMarksPod@gmail.com. Johnny Clash, do that thing.
Game over. Marks.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.